Good morning, honey.
Good morning.
Thank you for teaching. Today is chapter 8.
Chapter 8. This is getting into the classic portion of the book of Revelation, because what everybody thinks of first are, as it says here, a third of the earth is burned up, a third of the sea turns to blood, a third of the rivers are turned bitter, and a third of the stars were darkened, and it's the big stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like having a few little fireworks in our backyard with the Twizzlers and things, and then going and seeing a great big performance.
Yeah.
This is the big performance of God.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are overwhelmed by the amount of destruction. And just today in the news, you were telling me about a flood that in China, that how many people were killed?
People, they said 6 people killed, but 800,000 people had
Homes were lost. Yeah. Okay. So that is 800,000 people's homes were lost, and yet only a few people were killed. And so even when you have destruction on the magnet, if you were to say in here that God destroyed 800,000 homes, you would have thought, wow, there must be hundreds of thousands of deaths. But even today, outside of God's hand, we only had a few deaths with 800,000 homes. And so when it comes to the earth and the stars and the rivers, people don't realize how big this earth is. To this day, the vast majority of the earth is unpopulated. When we were traveling across the United States, how much of it was unpopulated?
Yeah.
Most of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're one of the most developed countries on the earth. You go down into South America and 90% of it's unpopulated. Even in Europe, where there's been people for thousands of years, I've traveled through Germany and France and Spain and all kinds of European countries. And I mean, the Black Forest of Germany is huge. So when you could easily damage a third of the earth and not harm anybody.
Wow.
So, and if you look at these in succession, so far we've gone through, God has handed Jesus the scroll, and he's opening up these seals. And the first, second, and third, fourth, fifth, and sixth seals were all of these early signs of the beginning of the church age.
Yeah.
It was literally parallel to Christ going up to heaven and receiving the inheritance, and the book of Acts, where the apostles were starting to build the churches. Yeah. So we were building what is Christ going to inherit? The church is his bride.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so while he is receiving his inheritance in heaven, the apostles are building it, starting it here on earth at exactly the same time, the first century. But also, as he's unveiling it, the first thing he sees are the 4 horsemen. And those also are released within the 2nd and 3rd century of the modern world. Because they are false Christs and conquering heroes on the white horse. Yeah. Wars and rumors of war and crime on the red horse, inflation and famine, on and economic problems where a day's wages will only buy you a loaf of bread.
Horse.
That's the black horse, and then
death,
and then untimely death from all kinds of different sources where people die young before their time.
gray horse,
Abortions are the biggest one.
Yeah.
And so
pale horse.
That's the pale horse. So those are the first seals, and those are the first things released in the early church history, and they will get worse and worse as we come closer to his return. And as Christ rolls it open and opens the next seals, there are different things that happen, and we have come now to the 7th seal, and one of the things that helps is to have some kind of a little image. And if you think about the let's see, there's 7 seals, 7 trumpets, and 7 bowls.
Yeah, 777.
Right. And what does that mean? That is God's
Completely.
complete judgment
Yeah.
on the earth. But who is he judging? He is judging the wicked against who? Well, he's judging them against the saints who have received Christ, including people like Isaiah, who says, I saw Jesus. And then there's the people that have not received Christ but aren't wicked. They're not opposed to God. They're just good people. You're from China, and one of the popular modern religions before Taoism is Buddhism. And it talks about being good people, and we both met a lot of good Buddhists.
Yeah.
Does that mean they deserve hell? Well, God will judge their heart.
Yes.
But that happens at the great white throne judgment. So if the wicked are removed and the saints are translated into immortal beings, but it still says there are people left on earth, the nations will come and worship God. There must be another class of people, and those are the sinners. They're good people, but they're sinners. And that is why I've actually written a special study on the sinner as opposed to the wicked.
Yeah.
Wicked are enemies of God. God does not tell us to love his enemies. He tells us to love our enemies.
Sinner.
Never once in the Bible does it say, love my enemies, as God speaking.
Yeah.
Only love our own enemies. God's enemies are that category of the wicked, and that's the whole point of the book of Revelation, is to judge the wicked and remove them.
Yes.
In fact, just today, we were talking about this. Psalm 91. He who dwells in the shelter of
My favorites.
He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. He will survive or abide or dwell in it. I will say to the Lord, you are my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Surely he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler, as a bird being caught by the net of a fowl, a bird trapper, and from the deadly plague. He will cover you with his feathers. Under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and rampart. A rampart is like a wall. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the calamity that destroys at noon. Though 1,000 may fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand, no harm will come near you. Does that sound like we're being removed from the harm, or that we will be protected through the harm? Though 1,000 fall near you and 10,000 at your right hand, people are dying all around you, and you're standing there without a feather ruffled.
Yes.
Listen how it goes on. You will, no harm will come to you. You will only see it with your eyes and witness the punishment of the wicked.
Yeah.
That's tribulation period. That's the 7 years of Daniel at the end of time.
Yeah.
Because you have made the Lord your dwelling, my refuge, the Most High, no evil will befall you, no plague will approach your tent, for he, God, will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways.
Amen.
Why not preach this instead of a pre-trib rapture that says, hey, don't worry, before it gets bad, we're all going to be taken out of here? All that does is weaken a person's faith.
Yeah.
If you've got 1,000 people dying on the right over here and 10,000 on this side, how much stronger is your faith if you believe that an angel is going to protect you at the command from God?
Angels watching over us.
And so I have a faith that is ready to go through the fire.
Through the fire. I'm ready.
Not be delivered before it.
Yes.
And so before we even get into this is chapter 8 is where you have to decide from here on out, are we talking about events where there are still saints on earth? Or are they gone? Because if you read the following chapters as if the saints are gone, there will be things in those chapters that will make no sense at all. The only way the following chapters, all the way up to chapter 19, make any sense at all is if the saints are still around.
Amen. Saints is always around.
And that is my message for chapter 8.
Okay. Thank you for teaching. If anybody like it, please share it with your friend. Comment any question and give him thumbs up and subscribe it so you don't miss his all videos.
Yeah, it only
Thank
gets
you.
better from here.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. God bless you all. See you next time.